Hello everyone and welcome. Today we'll talk about bidirectional many-to-many relations. We were discussing adjacent ignore, adjacent managed reference in the previous videos. Here we will discuss JSON identity info, which serves the purpose of removing circular references. Later we will refactor the code and use model classes to format the JSON responses. This will give us a chance to discuss Project Lombok, and we'll also use annotation with our model classes. We'll explicitly define the relations with join table, join columns, and inverse join columns. The Cascade type.all can behave very weirdly in many situations. We'll have a demo on its bad behavior and we'll correct it. As always, I'll leave the source code at GitHub. You can find the link below in the description. So let us start by modeling the entities. Here we are having the user and the role entities. You can see the role definition in the user entity and the user's definition in the role entity. Hence we can call it a bidirectional relation. Let us talk about the role, the manager role. There can be many managers in an organization. So we can see that one role will be associated with many users. So now let us consider a situation where our HR manager is acting as a manager and also as an admin. That means she is associated with more than one roles or she is having many roles. So let us model this relation as many-to-many. Now let us see the default Hibernate creation. You can see the mapping tables created with user's ID and roles ID. Later in this video, we'll see how we can override the default creation of Hibernate. We'll be explicitly doing the mappings in our code. As discussed, we have the role definition in the user entity and the user definition in the role entity. You can see how we have defined it here. We can navigate from the user entity and also from the role entity. This makes it a bidirectional relation. You can find the code for this section at GitHub. I created many branches. You can go through each branch. At each stage I have created a branch. It's a started branch which I am talking about. Now let us talk of the role entity. Here we can see I use the JSON identity info annotation, which will take care of the circular reference issue. Previously we were using JSON ignore and JSON managed reference. Now let us see what will happen when we are using the JSON identity info. I done the same thing in the user entity also. Now let us see the many-to-many annotation where it is mapped by roles, stating that the role is the owner of the relation or the parent entity. Now when you talk on the user entity, we are using JSON identity info here, and we can see that in both the cases, I have set the Cascade type to all. I have done this mainly to show you what happens when you delete and update. We'll reach there soon. Please tag along for some time. Now let us see the major changes. As discussed, these are the major changes that we have done. The JSON identity info annotation and the many-to-many annotation. Here you can see how in the user entity, how we have written the many-to-many annotation. And for the role entity, we have written the many-to-many annotation mapped by roles, cascade type.all, and the same with the user entity. Now let us have a look at the controller. We'll have all the CRUD operations in the user controller. It will be calling the respective methods in the user service. So you can see the post mapping where we are using it to create the user, and get mapping where we can get a single user with the ID. And get all users, we are using user all, the put mapping for updating, and the delete mapping to remove the user. It will be deleting by ID. We have written the same for the role controller, not much of changes here. I hope you guys have watched my previous videos where I had detail on the CRUD operations. If not, please do find the source code on GitHub and you can also watch it. Now you can see the JSON object. Here I am creating one user with two roles. Let us open Postman and send in the request. But before that, let us run the application. Now let us look at the user entity where we are having the JSON identity info defined here and the many-to-many here we are not having map by, because map by comes here because it is a parent entity. We have the role repository, user repository, 2 services and 2 controllers. That's what we have written for the start of this thing. You can find the code on GitHub. Now, I already had this application running. Let me just stop it and rerun the application. It is running on port 1799. You can see it here. I'll just clear it. Now let us create the user. Here we are having the user with the first name, hello, good afternoon, last name, world, mobile, I have given a number, and the main thing is we are having 2 user roles in fact. One with the name manager and the other one with the name accounts. Let us click on send. You're having localhost 1799 user create, and it's a post method. We'll just check on the controller. You're having user create, which creates an user, which calls a method in the create user. Click on send. You'll get a message, user created successfully. Now let us create a role with 2 users. Let us see what will happen. Get a message, successfully created role. Now let us try the get method. Wow, no circular reference, and the JSON identity info is doing its job, but I'm not happy with this. Later in the code, we'll do some refactoring for the getters and see that we get a better display of the JSON object. But let's hang on to this right now. Now, the user details, I'm getting the user with the ID 1. This is working fine. Let us go to the update method. I'm changing this. You can see the user with the ID 1. I'm just changing it from hello good afternoon to hello good evening. I'll send it. It gives me updated successfully. And now you should see hello good afternoon, hello good evening instead of hello good afternoon. Yeah, ID 1, hello good evening. Hello good afternoon is not there. Now what we'll do is we'll go to the delete. I'll show you something. I'm deleting the role 3. You see successfully deleted. I am deleting role 4 too. Successfully deleted. Now let's do a get all for the user. Let's see what will be the result. You're getting a blank object here. So what is happening is when we delete the role, all the users associated with the role is deleted. So that is because of the cascade type.all that we are giving there. We'll go refactor the code and get it corrected. Now instead of cascade type all, you can see that I put in, it takes in an array. I put cascade type.persist, .detach, .merge and .refresh. I removed cascade type.all from here, and I am not using cascade type.remove, which is going to cause me the problem. Now let us run this application, repeat all the steps, and repeat the delete step and see what is going to happen. So we'll create the user, same thing, created successfully, post method for creating the roles. We'll check out the user, all, everything is back. By ID, you're getting it. Check on the update method, successfully updated, get all roles. Yeah, everything is working fine. Now what we do is the same thing. We'll repeat the step. We'll delete 3. Last time when we deleted, you saw that all the users were deleted along with the roles. Now let us delete role number 3. You get a constant violation exception, that is, you cannot delete it because it is associated with many other users. Now let us try 4. Again the same thing, and the code is working fine, but when we come to IntelliJ and look at it, let us look at the console. You're getting many errors. Now what we'll do is stop the application. Now this is the delete method what I written for delete role. If the ID is present, it is going to execute this, else it is going to return no records found. And if it is present, I am going to delete it. Checking it again whether it is present. I am doing all this stuff. Now what I do is I just comment it. I return another method which I will just uncomment. Nothing much, not much of difference. What I am doing is I am getting the role and checking for the users. I'll get all the users associated with the role, and if the size is 0, that means you don't have any user, then I'm going to delete it. Else I am going to throw the custom messages. That means we are handling the error for ourselves, and let us see what is going to happen when we run the application. The same monotonous job. Create the user, again create the role, update it, check for the roles, everything is there. Now let us delete 4. Doesn't make a difference whether delete 3 or 4. Fail to delete, please delete the users associated with the role. You should get the same message for 3. If there are any users associated, you will not be able to delete the role. And that's what we want. We don't want the entire chain to be wiped off. Now you can find the source code to this section in this branch. Go check it out and do some exercises for yourself. Now let us see the way we have defined the mappings. See the cascade type. Cascade will take in an array. We are giving persist, detach, merge and refresh. You can see that all except for all and remove, we have given everything. Now let us see how we can explicitly define the relations. It is join table. We will start with the join table, which is going to create a table for us. We will name the table as t_user_roles. And we are planning to have 2 columns, which will be the user ID and the role ID. The user ID from the user entity and the role ID from the role entity. Are you clear with that? So what we do is we'll write join columns equal to, and we'll be using the annotation at join column, and here I'll give the name for the field that we are using. I'll put it as user ID, and this is going to reference ID. And then comes the inverse join column, same equal to, we'll put at join column and name it as role_ID, and the reference column will be the ID in the roles entity. Now let us see this in IntelliJ. Now let us open the user entity. You're having the at join table, name equal to t_user_roles, which is the name of the table that we are having. And then I'm putting join columns and inverse join columns. In the join columns, we'll be referring to the ID in this entity. That's, and giving a name as user ID, which will be reference column name will be the ID of the user entity. And in inverse join column, again we'll be referencing the column name ID, which will be of the role entity, and we'll give it as role entity. It will be creating the same, it will give the same effect as before. Let us see by running the application. Nothing should change, right? We'll create, users are created, roles are created, we are able to get it, works fine, update, everything is working fine. So it is the same as what we were doing before, but we are doing it explicitly. We can change the names, you can put whatever you want. Now I'll show you one more mapping where my requirement is I want the user underscore email, user underscore mobile and the role name mapped in a table. That means user underscore email will be the email column of the user entity, and the mobile will be the user underscore mobile will be the mobile column of the user entity, and the role underscore name will be the name from the role entity. So this is a mapping that we want to make. Let us see how we are doing it. We'll give the annotation join table, and now we can see t underscore user underscore roles. We are giving the name join column. There will be two join columns for the user table, user underscore email and user underscore mobile. You can see the reference column name as email and the column name as mobile. Now going to the other side of the relation, that is inverse join column, we are taking the name. The reference column is name from the role entity and giving the name as role underscore name. When we create it, you are going to get something like this. Same as this, it's not something like this. You'll get the same thing in the Postgres database. You can find the code for this section on GitHub on this branch. But I have not given this mapping. I have not done anything regarding this mapping in the code, source code. So the rest all you can find it on GitHub. Now coming to the get response. See, when we use the get method, I am going to get something like this, which is not understandable by me. I need it in a better manner. I think you guys deserve something better. Let us do something different and get it in a more readable manner. You can see this. For me, it is confusing anyway. I don't want to see it this way. So I think I'll give you a code so that where you can see things in a better manner. But before we go into it, let us talk about Project Lombok. Lombok is used to reduce the boilerplate code where we are writing all these getters and setters, the argument, no argument, and all argument constructors. All this can be brought in with annotations. That's what the Project Lombok is doing for us. So what we can do is we can add a dependency in our POM file and start using it. You can see the way I have defined the user entity, user model and the role model. I'm creating a class called user model where I am giving everything like first name, last name, mobile, email, and I created another role model which I am taking a list that is of type role model and naming it as roles. See the annotations I have given here, getter and setter. So we don't have to write any getters and setters explicitly. And if you're writing it, it's going to override the behavior. Same thing I've done for the role model. Now I made some changes for the get methods. What I'm doing here is, I'll explain the code here. I am just finding by ID if the user is present. The getUser method takes in an ID, which is ID for the user table, and then it checks it. If it is present, it is going to execute all the statements, else it is going to return null. We can do a better return for this also, like user model, we can give a blank user model rather than returning null, but for the time being let us return null. It's not a good practice. Then I am assigning it to the user. Now I am creating a user model now, assigning the first name where I am getting from the user here, last name, everything I am getting it assigned, and I am returning user model. This is what we are going to see there. Here I'll get the role list and I'll be assigning it to the user model. See the role model I have written here, just the name and description here, user. When I get the list, I'll be getting just the name and description there. No clutter will be there. So we'll run the application, see what is going to happen. Here what I'm doing is I also removed JSON identity info. I'm not using it anymore. because there will be no circular reference errors and things like that. Also, I removed it. Now let's run the application. We'll repeat all the steps. We have been doing it many times in this demo. Create the user with 2 roles, 1 role with 2 users, the role admin with 2 users. Now let us see the get all method. Previously we were having something like this. Let us see what it is going to give right now. You can see a better way of representing it. You are having the user here, second one here, third one, and the roles associated. If it is having 2 roles, it is showing like that. Previously I felt a bit of clutter, so that's the reason why I am using the model, and it's a good practice for using the models to exchange data. Now let us see what we are discussing in this demonstration. We have been discussing the many-to-many relations bidirectional, where we are defining in both the entities. In the user entity we'll be defining the role entity, and in the role entity we are defining the user entity. We have done all the CRUD operations, but I have not done much of coding in this because I have been doing all this in the previous 7 lectures, 7 demonstrations. So not much of coding in this. And we looked into JSON identity info. We replaced JSON ignore, JSON managed reference with the JSON identity info. And again we replaced JSON identity info, did some code refactoring and used model classes. We also learned about project logbook, and we saw how we can write the getters and setters using the annotation. And we created model classes to facilitate transfer of data in a structured manner. We also did a bit of code refactoring for the delete operation. In the next video, we'll talk about our tokens, how we are going to generate it. And it's quite simple. Make sure you have seen my previous video on security before you take up the OR tokens. Thanks for your time. It's time for me to wind up this video. Thanks for watching.